was a lot of fun.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to tonight's board meeting. It's going to be a short one, maybe not. We also have a nice presentation we'll have, but with all of that, would you mind standing for the pledge, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4 is adoption of agenda this evening. Can we have a motion for that, please?
I move to approve the agenda.
Fantastic. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, next is call to the public. I do not have any cards in front of me. Would anyone like to speak on anything before we get started? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to item 6, which is our information and discussion items. First up is the Ycef grant presentation. I have a feeling that's what's on virtual. Nice.
Hi, everybody.
That was for me.
Oops, I'm getting some feedback there. So my name is Rochelle Hornby, and I was the architectural draft and design instructor for this past year. So, and this is my guest, Kelly Burns, this year. She's here from the Yavapai County Educational Foundation. So first, I'd like to thank you so much for the grant.
I believe, and sorry, Michelle, I believe Mr. Carter is probably in the room as well. Is he in the?
Oh, in person?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah, he's here.
Yes. Oh, hi. I don't see you. I see the board members, but yes, Mr. Carter, thank you so much for coming today. So I have a presentation today to talk about the grants and the awesome things that my students did. So this is our Bitmojis of all of my students. They were required as an assignment to make a Bitmoji. Unfortunately, I have one student that didn't make it, but this is my great group of kids. So as you know, I applied for a grant through the Yavapai County Educational Foundation, and it was a $500 classroom grant. And I'm just going to read you quickly what I submitted for that grant. So lessons in architecture are most strongly taught with hands-on learning. Architects and drafters are visual by nature. Having the necessary equipment to measure out as-built projects that students can then draft in the classroom is invaluable. Students can begin to understand what they're drafting when tangible factors are in play. Instead of just drafting lines that represent walls, they begin to comprehend that the lines begin to develop into 3D facets. Collecting varied data aids in the comprehension of what is around them daily, opening their minds to drafting and the environment surrounding them. I'm requesting a classroom grant to purchase the necessary equipment for my students to measure out and then draft their high school campus. These are the buildings they are nurtured in, where they begin to grow and will hold great memories. The result could potentially be a great display for the school and amazing documents that students can use in college applications, trade applications, and beyond. They will have the opportunity to not only develop their skills, showcase their work, and be afforded experience they can take with them and use in their future in one form or another. Additionally, this will allow them to prepare for an exam to attain an industry standard certification. This equipment will be used throughout the year for additional learning experiences also. Beyond this course, this equipment will be used by other CTE programs at CVHS for years to come. I thank you for your consideration. So this was my application that I, when I applied for the grant, and luckily it was approved. So I asked for equipment for the students to go out and do is what we call an as-built. So we got drafting paper. I printed out in Google Earth all the buildings on campus. We purchased colored pencils so that they could draw out measurements, what made sense to them, so that they could come back into the classroom and then draw their buildings in Revit. So, you know, the equipment was purchased and we got busy. So the students, like I said, went out. Each student was responsible for a different building on campus. They each were responsible for taking those measurements. They did help one another. And then after they pulled that data, they came back into the classroom and drew their buildings in Revit. So what I'm going to show you next is each individual building of the student, of what each student was responsible for. So the software that was implemented was Autodesk, AutoCAD, which was used by Mr. Foster the year before. They also in the year before used Autodesk, AutoCAD Civil 3D. My course focused on Autodesk Revit. And then after we put the buildings into Revit, we put it into a program called Twinmotion, which you'll see shortly. I have a short video of the whole entire campus that they drew in Twinmotion. So my collaboration with this last year in Mr. Foster's class, they drew the topography of the entire campus. And that was this first images. So they did that in AutoCAD, in AutoCAD and Civil 3D. So it was three-dimensional. So I took that assignment that they did last year and I pulled that into Revit. And then I had each of the students draw their buildings and I put those buildings onto the topography that they drew the year before. And then this last image here is the campus in 3D. And if we overlay that with a Google Earth image, you can see that it's pretty on par. So they did a fantastic job. Everything that I threw at them, they stepped up and just did amazing work. So we'll go through each building. This is Quentin. He was responsible for the gymnasium and the administration building. So each student had to do basic floor plans of the outside of the building, not particularly the inside. We don't have so much time. And the elevations. And then in the end, they had a 3D model. Evan drew the English, Spanish, and math building. And again, he had to go out and take the measurements and then have basic floor plans, elevation plans, and a 3D model in the end. Eric did the science and math building. Braden did sports medicine, choir, and band. And you can kind of see, you know, as we're going along, you know, how they had to go through the process from beginning to end. Kendall did the culinary, theater, and biology building. And at the very end, they were learning about materials. So initially, their buildings were very basic, kind of like what you're seeing initially. Materials was the last part of the lesson. So Miguel's the gentleman on the right, and he drew our agriculture building. Andy did the arts and ceramics building. Chino did the Cougar Center, which Miss Davidson appreciated because that's where she lives, per se. Tucker drew the library. Hunter Lane did the history and special education building. Allie did the computer labs and special education, and she kind of went above and beyond. I have a feeling she's been in that building a lot because she did a lot of the interior walls, which was not a requirement, but was appreciated that she kind of took that extra step. Thomas did the English and Student Council building. Matthew did the weight room. So you can kind of see too with their hand sketches, they were responsible for making their hand sketches for what made sense to them. And I told them, whatever makes sense to you is how you need to document. So they each kind of had their own methods. Hunter did the West Campus and the district office, which is the building you're sitting in right now. So I don't know if Yavapai County Education Foundation knows, but I taught this virtually, so I only came up there 3 times in person. This was kind of one of the funny moments. We had fire drills probably 4 times over the semester, so there were times I was sitting there by myself. On Chino Valley High School's in, Miss Davidson was the one that was in the classroom. She was very instrumental in the success of this class. So we had a lot of, after the class chit-chatting. Her only regret was she wished she would have taken the class along with the students. So thank you to Chino Valley. So Mr. Priya was, of course, very instrumental, and Ms. Olbert as well. And Mr. Hargrove, the IT, so he was helpful as well. I work here at Tucson at Kima College, and my dean, Mr. Wilson, allowed me to use a room on this end, and he was very supportive. Mr. Gardner is the IT on this end, and Mr. Marsh is a tutor here in the lab, and he helps me with the twin motion. And of course, most thanks to Yavapai County Education Foundation, because without your funding, this wouldn't have been possible. So it was a lot of work for them. I think they were a little overwhelmed initially, but it actually worked out really great, and I think that they learned a lot. So these are my great students. So this is how they saw me. I was always joke about I'm great Oz in front of them. So very great group of kids. I want to thank the board for letting me teach this, because it was a great experience. I had 3 students while I was teaching that worked in industry during the semester. And I have 1 student that actually is registered for classes here at PMAC semester. I also had another student that said he was considering architecture, and after this class, that's the route he wants to go. So real quick, I'm going to run you through Twin Motion. Twin Motion is another program, so I took our end result of all the students' buildings that were taken into Revit, and we put it into Twin Motion. And then this was the result of Twin Motion. So this was kind of fun because, especially for the kids that being there on campus, this is a building that they're walking through on a regular basis.
Front of live presentations.
So this was the final result. All these buildings were drawn by the students. We here at Kima put it in motion, but all the work of the buildings was strictly done by the students. And the topography that you see also was done by the students in Mr. Foster's class. So I did not make any changes to the topography or the buildings. So this is all student work. We just put it into a program called Twin Motion. So it's kind of fun to, in the end, to showcase, not only showcase their work, but be able to take them through a building that they're familiar with and know, like whether it's right, what I'm saying, by them to be able to walk through the building virtually. Also, I guess while this is playing, again, on a side note, I just wanted to thank the board for hiring me and allowing me to do this. I know it was a big leap of faith, the concern of teaching this virtually. So I appreciate it. I had a great time. I told them not to call my college students, but I liked them more than my college kids. So at the, during the class view, we took the industry standard exam that I had mentioned in my proposal for this grant. 13 students took the exam and all 13 students passed. So all 13 students have an industry standard certificate. They could go in, a lot of them were like, well, now what do we do with this? They can use it to get a job. They can use it for job applications. It is an industry standard certificate in Revit, essentially, in Autodesk. So I had a lot of people that were even here at the college going, oh, you're not going to get all 13 kids to pass. But we worked really hard. They were a great group of kids, and all of them passed. Real quick, too, we took the state standard exam as well. I'm very competitive in nature, which Mr. Priya can attest to. So after they took the state standard exam, this is me and Ms. Davidson. I showed them these results. So we took the state standard exam. I only had my students for a year, and one of the other schools, so not that you're ranked, but we placed second in ratings of how high they scored. The other school is here in Tucson. I'm very familiar with that program. That teachers have those students for 3 years. So I'm pretty happy with the results of that. And none of those kids have a industry standard certificate. So, you know, I broke it all down into how high they scored in certain aspects. And if you look here, the utilizing of the software and the hardware, which is really what I focus mostly on, is 3 and 4. So 90% is what they scored on utilizing the software, and 70% on utilizing the software tools too. So they did a fantastic job. I was really, really, really proud of them. So I gave them an incentive to change their grade by doing well on that. So at any rate, again, I had a great year. These kids have been great, so I really had a good time. And thank you so much to the Yavapai County Educational Fund. I really appreciate that funding. So.
Hey, Krishna.
And just to brag briefly on, sorry about that. Just to brag briefly with that, the only other thing I wanted to add, there was two schools that scored. Their average test score for the state test was 67. Our school was 67, and the other school that Mrs. Horby was referring to, they also scored 67. So we had the highest average in the state. And the average.
Our average score was the same. They tested overall a little higher than we did, but like I said, considering I gave them a lot of information in a year, and that teachers had them for 3 years, give us another year, and I think we would have. I told the kids, well, we would. So anyway, I really appreciate it. Mr. Priya has all this information. If you guys are Yavapai County Educational Foundation, if you need any of this, I'd be more than welcome to share it with you. So thank you.
We would really like to have it, I think. If you, yeah, great job. That's phenomenal.
Thanks.
Mr. Carter, do you want to say anything?
Madam President, if I may. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. As I was sitting there watching it, this thought went through my mind, and I'm sorry I'm even saying this in a public meeting, but that's how impressed I was. So you folks all know that you're a part of a capital lawsuit against the state of Arizona for facilities. Whatever you do, don't let the state legislature or the state facilities board see this video, because they will swear you have a brand new campus. That's how good those kids are. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, because I was saying, I was like, hey, look what a little pink will do. 'Cause, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a cleaner version of the campus. Not the campus is dirty, but you know, things over time, paint fades. That's just the nature of the beast. You know, if I had another year, they had more time, we would draw other aspects of campus, but I think they did an amazing job.
Tricia, that was phenomenal, and you are the reason that the board members worked so hard to get funding for those. Excellent job.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the board, I appreciate it.
Hey, Ms. Hornby, I know you kept thanking the board, but I feel it's our obligation to thank you. It was absolutely our pleasure and our honor to have you teach this to our students, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right,
Bye, thank you.
Item 6B, Mr. Schultz, Superintendent Report.
All right, legislative update really is not much to update. Things are still in limbo, but there's stuff happening behind the scenes. They did issue the budget forms that came out Friday. The reason why we have a special meeting later in the month, one reason is that the forms came out so late. Second reason is hopefully we'll have a budget that we can actually do something that's realistic. But the current budget forms use the current year, 2021-22 numbers, not what would be 22-23 numbers. So we'd have to do a September revision. If not, you know, then at least a December. But we're hoping that we can actually give you some real numbers before the 23rd. So we'll see. That's a week before things close down. So you never know. We've gone that far before.
At a minimum, it'll be what we got last year, I would hope.
Well, on the budget,
Yeah.
there's some automatic increases, like 2% to the M&O and stuff like that I don't believe are in the current budget forms. So they'd have to revise those eventually anyway. So anyway, not much taking place. I know there was some talk a little bit ahead of time before the meeting, but I want to recognize Heidi Wolf. Congratulate Heidi Wolf for her ASA, Distinguished Administrator for Secondary Division, which is high schools. So she is accepting that award a week from today down in Tucson at the ASA annual conference. So I'll be down there. I know Cindy's going to go down there and we'll see her accept that award. So well-deserved, 92% graduation rate, works her tail off. Was here often on Fridays working with kids to get them graduated. And so well-deserved honor. We appreciate what she does. Track update. We have some pictures, hopefully. Let's see. The construction's in progress. This is them actually paving, so that half the track is paved and half is not. These were taken about 1 o'clock today. So you can just kind of go through. You can see there was some concrete that we added. And so that's what that new concrete is. And we have 2 change orders. One is to, they're actually going to add surface to that concrete area so that it's consistent. The separation will be the lines, but they'll be, you won't be able to tell the difference between the high jump area and the track except for the lines. We do have a second change order that came out last week on the northeast corner. There was a lot of, that's where the water tends to go. And they had to take the sub base down to 30 inches, 36 inches or so, and then haul that dirt off and bring in some new base. And so that was another change order to make sure that the cracks that we get don't happen. That's basically why we're doing that.
But is there drainage ponding there? Or in other words, just changing the base is not going to
Right.
solve the problem.
I think they're also sloping it so that it's
So it
appropriate.
drains more positive.
Right.
Great, super. I'm sure they knew that.
Yeah. So with everything, it looks like that we're on track to finish by the end of the month, which is before our rainy season. So we're excited. Things are moving ahead. It's nice because you can actually see things happening. Teacherage update. I've met with a couple different groups on possibilities for a teacherage, which is teacher housing, west of Del Rio in the property that the district already owns. Both groups that went out there think it's a fantastic location. We are working on the possibility of identifying through a state contract an engineer that can do a plan for us. There's some that is in a floodplain, so there's some things like that would have to be worked out. But we've got water. We would do septic. The electricity goes right past there. I had kind of thrown out there the possibility of buying something. It's going to be much more economical to do something there than it would be to buy something. We can probably get, 3 to 4 times the number of bedrooms that we would get otherwise.
How many acres are there? in that?
38.
On that empty space is 38 acres.
Oh, so it's a good sized parcel then.
Some of it is not usable. There is a big hole and a big hill, and the archery range is in the hole. But I'd say maybe at least a third of it is nice flat land and things like that. So
We're not subject to town zoning.
not subject to zoning,
Right.
but there's some other things. We still need a fire lane.
Yeah.
There's and things like that, and so we want to be good partners and make sure the town approves things, and the fire department needs to approve things like that. So we'll work with that, but we are moving forward with that. And I assume you have not heard any news on the grant.
We're supposed to know by the end of June.
Okay. There is a grant that the county ESA has applied for in conjunction with Coconino County, and correct me if I say anything wrong, please, where for $3 million that would be used for matching grants, and the whole project could be $1 million project. And that would be pay half of, and this is strictly for teacherage. And this is a grant through the Arizona Department of Education. Once we find out, we could come up with a plan, submit it to a committee that would evaluate it to whether it's something that they would be willing to help us fund. Is that fairly accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
That's great.
So we're excited about that because that could take our money and make it go twice as far. So we're excited and moving forward. Now, did I hear the deadline to spend the money is June 30th of 23?
We do not know that for sure.
Okay.
One of the documents said 23, one said 24.
Okay.
We don't know yet.
So hopefully we'll have the opportunity to figure that out when the county gets awarded that. So
you just need to have contracts by that deadline.
I think that's part of the language that we'd get once if the grant is awarded. So. And then last is the law conference dates. So if you are interested in going to the law conference, there's a pre-conference on September 7th. The conference is on the 8th and the 9th. Please let Karen know. The conference opens, the room reservations begin July 5th, and they can go quickly. It's at the Camelback Inn. So
Then we get ours in the first day and hopefully get rooms this year.
that's
Gonna
what we're
try.
hoping. That's what we're hoping. So, any questions?
No, thank you. Any questions from this side? How about from this side? Then moving right along to item 6C1.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, administration and staff, and honored guests, we've got a real quick summary of the financial position of the district at the end of May 2022. Our operating budget, 15.9 million, expenditures, 13.6 million. Our capital budget, 1.8 million, expenditures of 673,000. And we've got cash balances of all the other funds there. We're in good shape overall with our other fund balances as well. I'd like to just go through dates again. Superintendent mentioned briefly, so the 23rd, I'll be bringing back the preliminary budget. Hopefully by that date, it will have the legislative approved factors for next fiscal year in there. If not, we'll have to just do that later on in the year. And then with our Fund 691, with our School Facilities Board Fund, we've got our architect, about $600,000 worth of billing, and all the roofing assessments and all the asbestos studies are finished. We've got our architect now working with Pueblo Mechanical to do HVAC installation quotes. And we've got our architect working with Progressive Roofing to do where roof penetrations have occurred. Hopefully we'll have those quotes back for you on the 23rd of June. And then we'll enter into contracts with those providers with their own separate contracts under that job order contracting that we brought you on May 9th. And then we'll be able to enter into those contracts. And SFB has been with us all the way. The new division of Arizona School Facilities Board is Division of School Finance, I believe, DSF. So they've changed their name 3 times. They used to be School Finance.
School facilities, I think.
Yeah, used to be Oversight Board for about 6 months, School Facility Oversight Board. So we know we're getting lots of oversight direction, and we appreciate that, but we also appreciate their funding. The estimates for the HVAC are between 5 and about 7 million. The HVAC for the estimates for the roofing, they call it a roofing rehabilitation, are between 4 and 5 million. So somewhere between 9 and 11 million for everything. That's the estimates, but we haven't seen the quotes yet. Once we see the quotes, we'll bring those to you and we'll have contracts ready to be approved at the June 23rd meeting. If not, it'll have to be the July 11th meeting is our next meeting. But they've been working on that together with our architect for over a month now.
We have spent $700,000 so far and haven't done one physical thing.
Yes.
That's just in the drafting, the planning, the everything else.
Costing, yeah.
Yes. $700,000 and haven't turned a screw.
So John, quick question though. I'm the eternal optimist. Assuming we can make contracts within a reasonable time period, once all this is done, will that work be able to be done during schools, when school is open?
That's my understanding, that they could get the units ordered. The units are anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks out once they get these HVAC units ordered. So they could be, again, most optimistic estimate on site last week of October, first week of November, and then they would be able to hopefully get those installed by the end of January. But whether the plan that we've heard is that Pueblo Mechanical, the main general, they're acting as general and as a job order contract, would bring some portable buildings to the school district, and they would be able to work on sections of different campuses.
Move the kids into the port.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was concerned about,
Yeah.
because that construction is going to be disruptive.
Yeah.
And so that's a super, I'm glad to hear that. We get both. We get classes continue, but we get the installation during the fall and winter.
Yeah, they've discussed that. Chuck Hink is the general from Pueblo Mechanical, and that's what he said. If you've got a quad of 4 buildings or 4 classrooms here, you'll put those students in the temporary buildings over
Sure.
here, redo that section, move those students back in, and then move the next section of classrooms into that same area. And that's what they've done before, and that's what they anticipate doing here.
Super,
So-
thank you.
And let's be honest, everybody would be happy to be this place to get AC.
Yeah.
Like it's fine.
Cindy, even if it is in December and January.
Exactly.
Well, you answered my question. I was wondering what the timeline was, so that's awesome. That's great.
So just in my mind, if everything works and everything is available through we know it's a kind of a compromised supply line out there for certain goods and services, but I would say by March 1st, if everything falls into place and funding falls into place.
Great.
So, Mr. Livingston, we're gonna seek you again with student activity fund report, please.
Okay, so if you take a look at that report from Elizabeth, she's got all our expenses, $123,000 cash left there. And if you look over at the encumbrances in that second column from the right, you see I believe it's, let's see, golf has a golf tournament that we're still kind of working on. Our golf coach at the high school had a golf tournament, and he brought in quite a few revenues, quite a few fees, and we've still got some to tie out to close the year. We've still got some expenses there. The boys and girls soccer, as you know, did really well this year, and they've ordered some rings, and those won't be here till probably August, September. And then we've got wrestling as well, the $2,000. They've ordered some rings, some state rings. So those things we We try to close everything down by about the end of May once schools and students leave. But these are gonna probably go over into the next year. Doubtful that they'll all be done by June 30th, but we understand. We're trying to get state rings from a company that's already 2 or 3 months into making state rings. Ours may not go to the top of the list, so. But other than that, I think everything is double checked and deposits are right on track with, we're not gonna be written up for anything with our student activity. We have got really good responses from our schools and we have a good cash deposit system, so that's working really well.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now on to our consent agenda, item 7A through D. We actually need a motion for this to approve our consent agenda.
Well, we able to take from this side this time. I move that the consent agenda as published be approved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 8A, our personnel report, Mr. Scholl.
We have 3 new certified, 1 new classified, 3 classified subs, 17 resignations, 1 termination, 1 certified change, 12 classified changes, and 180 time sheets.
Would be the same without that, would it?
There is a supplement, so please refer to that as well.
Do either of you need some time to look over it, anything? I'm excited, number 4 in the supplement decided to apply. I encouraged him. All right, any questions on any of these guys? I'll do either. Fantastic, this is an action item. Whenever you are ready to make a motion to approve tonight's personnel report with supplement.
Move we accept tonight's personnel report, complete with a supplement.
And I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. All right, up next, item 8B, Ms. Daniels, 25 FTE classified position for the Family Resource Center. Thanks.
Mrs. Marley is a 0.75 FTE employee. That's all she wants to work because she's semi-retired. You wouldn't know it by how hard she works. She does not want to work 40 hours a week, but she really needs help in the Family Resource Center. We have, we've wrapped up the year with 413 homeless students in the district, so she is very, very busy. And to that end, she has requested assistance with things like laundering the donations that come in, organizing things that come and go. She has a program where people in the community sponsor a student every month throughout the school year. And she has a list of the things that they donate for that month. Some people choose to donate money, and so she has some volunteer shoppers who go do that. So it's a very busy location. And I had told her, well, you know, we'll see, blah, blah, blah. And then the feds coughed up a little bit more stimulus money for homeless. And it was originally going to be competitive. And I thought, yeah, I don't have time to write one more grant this year. And then they said, oh, well, it's not going to be competitive. You just need to fill it out. And I said, okay. So we'll be using that money. We have 2 years to spend it. So it'll give her a position for a couple of years, and then we'll kind of see where the economy is, you know, and how things level off or how the needs level off. So it's just someone who will work 10 hours a week and just help her out a bit.
Was this position originally advertised or thought to be hired at full-time?
Miss Marley's position? No, we had full-time in the past when we had a living homeless grant. Then we've had, various folk in the position over here. Some of them, we split it with other jobs, things that they were qualified for. And when we had a change of personnel, she had expressed an interest in it before she retired and only wanted to work half-time. So talked her into 3/4 time for this year, but she said, you're not talking me into full-time.
Okay.
So.
I was just looking at future funding.
So, and I think that it'll be interesting because as we roll forward with it, You know, there'll come a point in time when she's ready to retire. But, well, I've already had about 5 people begging me for that job when she does. So, which is kind of cool. I think it's a testament to the success she's brought to the program. So, and this Saturday is our next food pantry day, so. And your Safeway's generous donation, every family who comes receives a $50 gift card in addition to all the groceries they can take that they can use on Saturday. So that's really good. So I'm just asking if we could use grant fund to give somebody 2 or 10 hours a week, just as, you know, like a little assistant in the room.
Either of you have any questions for Cindy?
Sounds good.
I think it's your turn then.
Yes, it is. Okay, on agenda item 8B, I move that we approve a .25 full-time equivalent classified position for the Family Resource Center.
Second.
I absolutely agree. So all in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Everyone's happy.
You bet.
And
Just a
meeting is
reminder,
adjourned.
special meeting on the 23rd,
Remind me what time?
3 o'clock,
Thank you.
3 p.m.
Oh, yeah, that's what I had. Yeah.
Right, 2 times, right where those arrows are.